Okay, so number 11, we're going to solve by moving this term to the other side. And we're going to do that by subtracting. And you can write out this subtraction if it's helpful to you. You write it on both sides. So we have 9x is equal to 1 minus 10, which is negative 9. And then we're going to divide by 9 on each side to get x is equal to negative 1. And that's it. Okay, here we're going to move the 3x to the left by subtracting it from each side. And we'll move the 2 to the right by subtracting that from each side. And we're going to end up with 5x minus 3x is 2x. The 2's go away on the left. The 3x's go away on the right. And negative 6 minus 2, the signs match, so we get negative 8. And then we'll solve by dividing each side by 2, so x is equal to negative 4. Okay, here on the left I can combine these two things. 7 minus 5 is 2, so I get a 2x, but we still have this plus 15 is equal to x plus 8. So now I'm going to move this x over to the left by subtracting it from each side, and we get 2 minus 1 is 1x. Don't write the 1x, just write x. And then we're going to move the 15 to the right by subtracting it. And we're going to get 8 minus 15 is negative 7. And that's it. Okay, for number 17, I'm going to combine like terms. So positive 12 and positive 15 give me a positive 27w. And a negative 9 and a positive 5, we subtract because the signs don't match, but the 9 is bigger, so it's a negative 4. And then we have this negative 3w, and positive 5 and positive 9, that subtracts to be a negative 4. Now I'm going to move my 3w to the left by adding it, and I'm going to move this 4 to the right by adding it. So we're going to get 27 plus 3 is 30w. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. We'll solve by dividing each side by 30. And we'll get w is equal to 0 divided by anything is still 0. Okay, here I'm going to get rid of this 3 by distributing it through, and I'll get 16 minus 12. Now I'm going to move this negative 2 over to the left by adding it to each side. And that's going to give us 8t on the left. I'm going to move this 12 to the right by adding it to each side. And I'll get 20 plus 12 is 32. Finally, I'll get rid of that 8 by dividing each side by 8. And I'm going to get t is equal to 32 divided by 8 is 4. On number 21, I'm going to distribute this negative 5, and we're going to get negative 5x minus 5, and then we have that plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 6x plus 4. Now I'm going to combine this and this. Negative 5 plus 3 is a negative 2. And then I'm going to combine this and this. Negative 5 plus 2 is a negative 3. So now I can move this over here by subtracting it. And I can move this over here by adding it. And negative 2 minus 6, they signs match, so I add. So I get negative 8x. And 4 plus 3 is 7. Finally, I'll divide each side by negative 8. And we're going to get x is equal to a negative 7/8. That's it. Okay, on number 23, I'll start by distributing this 2, and we're going to get 2x plus 6. On the right, I'll distribute this negative 4, and we'll get negative 4x minus 4. Now I'll move the negative 4x to the left by adding it to each side. And that's going to give us 2 plus 4 is 6x. I'm going to move the 6 over to the right by subtracting that from each side. And negative 4 minus a 6, those signs match, so I add and get negative 10. And I'll solve by dividing each side by 6. and I'll get negative 10 over 6, which reduces by dividing by 2 to 5 over 3. Okay, here I'm going to distribute this, and we'll get 6w plus 3. I'll distribute the negative 2 and get negative 2w plus 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 to the positive 4 equals 5. And then I'm going to combine positive 6 and negative 2. That's a positive 4w. And I'm going to combine positive 3 and positive 4. That's a plus 7. I'll move my 7 over to the right by subtracting it from each side. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. And finally, I'm going to divide by 4 on each side. And I'm going to get w is equal to negative 2 over 4, which reduces to negative 1 over 2. Okay, so here we have a 2x. Now this is a positive 3 that's going to distribute, so we'll get a positive 3x minus 12. We'll take the 2 and distribute and get 2x minus 6. And then I'm going to combine this and this. That adds up to a 5x. Okay, I'll move the 2x to the left by subtracting it from each side. And we'll get 3x on the left. And I'm going to move this 12 to the right by adding it to each side. And we'll get negative 6 plus 12 is positive 6. Finally, we'll solve by dividing by 3, and we'll get x is equal to 6 divided by 3 is 2. Okay, number 29, I'm going to take this negative 4 and I'm going to distribute it. So we'll have 6p. Now negative 4 times 3 is a negative 12. Negative 4 times a negative 2 is a positive 8p. I'll take the 5 and distribute that. And then we have this minus 10. So let's combine like terms. Positive 6 and positive 8 add up to positive 14p. And then you have that minus 12. 5p is by itself, but we have this negative 20 and negative 10. That becomes, we add those up to get negative 30. Now I'm going to move the 5p to the left by subtracting it from each side. And I'll get 9p. 14 minus 5 is 9. And then I'll move the 12 to the right by adding it to each side. Oops. And I'm going to get negative 30 plus 12. Those signs do not match, so I subtract and get 18. But the bigger one, then 30 is bigger, so it's a negative 18. So finally, I divide by 9 on each side. And I get p is equal to negative divided by positive is a negative. 18 divided by 9 is 2. Okay, I'm going to work in the inner parentheses out. So we have this w, there's a 2 out there, and I'm going to get rid of these parentheses by distributing this negative. So that's going to become a negative 2w minus 4, and then we have this plus 3. Then in these parentheses, we have a positive w minus a negative 2w. That becomes a negative 1w. And we have this negative 4 plus 3, that combines to become negative 1. We have that 2 sitting out there, so when we distribute that, we get a negative 2w minus 2. That's all on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we're just going to distribute this and get a 2w plus 2. Okay, now I'm going to move this 2w to the left by subtracting it. And I'm going to get negative 4w. That means I have to move this negative 2 to the right by adding it. And I'm going to get, that's equal to positive 4. Finally, I'll divide each side by negative 4. And I'll get w is equal to positive divided by negative is a negative. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Okay, here I have a negative, and then I have this. I'm going to get rid of these parentheses by distributing that negative. So I have a 2z, and that's going to become a minus 5z minus a 2. And then I'm going to combine my z's, and I'll get 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Then I'm going to distribute this negative and get a positive 3z plus 2. That's all on the left. On the right, I'll take this positive 1 and distribute it through, and it just stays positive 2z plus 7. But then when I combine my like terms, 2 plus 7 is a positive 9. Okay, I'm going to move this 2z to the left by subtracting it from each side. And I'll get 3 minus 2 is 1z. Remember, don't write the 1. And I'll move this 2 to the left by subtracting it. And I'll get 9 minus 2 is 7. And that's it. Okay, here we have a negative 3m plus 6. Now I'm going to get rid of these parentheses by taking the negative 5 and distributing it. And I'll get negative 5m. This becomes a plus 5 because a negative times a negative is a positive. Then I have this negative 5m. I'll get rid of these parentheses by distributing just this negative sign. And I'll get negative 2m plus 4. And then we have that plus 5. So now let's combine like terms. This and this, the signs match, so we're adding them up to get negative 8m. And this add up to 11. This and this, those are the same signs, so they add up to get negative 7m. And this add up to 9, positive 9. Now, I probably should move things to the right, but I'm going to continue to move it to the left. So I'm going to move this to the left by adding 7m to each side. And that's going to be negative 1m. Now I'll move the 11 to the right by subtracting it from each side. And I'll get 9. Well, the signs don't match, so I subtract and get a 2, but it's a negative 2 because 11 is bigger than the 9. And if negative m is equal to negative 2, that means positive m is equal to positive 2. And that's it.